Are you looking for better shooting experience? How about a facility where you can shoot all of your firearms in the same day, where you can move and shoot steel, draw from the holster, and practice your rifle work out to 600 yards? Shoot a very challenging sporting clays course or a round of trap or skeet. You can do all that and much more at the Aurora Sportsman's Club. Hi, I'm David Lombardo, president of the Aurora Sportsman's Club. If you love the outdoors, you'll want to know all about Northern Illinois' largest outdoor shooting facility, the Aurora Sportsman's Club. If you're a novice looking for a basic course, an experienced shooter looking for an advanced course, or perhaps you want to participate in your favorite shooting event, or just spend an enjoyable day with a family, the Aurora Sportsman's Club is the only shooting facility in the region that offers all that and more. Interested? Then you won't want to miss the next orientation and tour of the Aurora Sportsman's Club. Call, email, or visit our website today to find out how you can become part of a better shooting experience at the Aurora Sportsman's Club in Waterman, Illinois.
He is the human Molotov cocktail that they can legally throw into the system that stole their lives from them.
So we're going to create a new government that serves you, your family, and your country.
It's time for On Target Radio, Chicagoland's only radio show dedicated to the red meat issues that affect your life, from gun control to freedom of speech. Now, debating, debunking, and discussing today's hot issues, here are your hosts, David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz.
Welcome to On Target Radio. Tonight, David's rant of the week is Ticking Off Your Family. David and Gretchen's guest is Thomas Gilligan, a patrol officer in the village of Bensonville. They'll be talking about everything you've ever wanted to know about traffic stops. All that and more on tonight's On Target Radio. So give us a call at 815-205-1584. That's 815-205-1584. Or go to Facebook, like our page On Target Radio, and ask a question or make a comment there.
Today's Rant of the Week and more of David's work can be found at bearingarms.com. And now, from the seething cauldron of personal opinion, it's David's Rant of the Week.
The penalty for giving family members grief may go up in Illinois. For weeks, Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson has sought in vain to get gun legislation passed by the state legislature. Johnson seeks stricter sentencing guidelines for judges deciding punishment for repeat gun felons. You'd think that would be a no-brainer, but apparently both sides of the aisle are fighting it for various reasons. Amid the weeping and gnashing of teeth over a bill you'd think both sides could find common ground, arises the Lethal Violence Order of Protection Act. You know how you think you come from a dysfunctional family? You worry about your friends meeting your family because, well, they're an acquired taste? Newsflash, all families are dysfunctional. Your friends have the same concerns about their families as you do about yours. Remember when you showed your older sister's naked baby picture to her new boyfriend and she swore she'd get even? Well, meet Illinois Senator Julie Morrison, who wants to make your older sister's dream come true. Morrison introduced Senate Bill 1291 in the Illinois State Legislature. The bill would allow judges to confiscate guns without input from the firearm owner. It's called ex parte, and yes, this is still America. Senate Bill 1291 provides that a petitioner, in this case your still ticked off older sister, may request an emergency lethal violence order of protection by stating you pose an immediate and present danger of causing personal injury to yourself or to another because you have or intend to acquire a firearm. There doesn't need to be any hard proof. It's one of those, liberal, touchy-feely sort of things. The privilege of dropping a dime on you is restricted to family members or a law enforcement officer. What could possibly go wrong with that? But seriously, what are the odds that one of your own kin, your own flesh and blood, would do such a thing? Well, there's your sister, of course, but think back to last Thanksgiving dinner, and after 6 or 7 beers, all the family members you insulted, argued with over politics, or reminded you make more money than they do. If Senate Bill 1291 passes, it provides for the court to forbid you from holding, owning, possessing, or receiving additional firearms for the duration of the order, and to turn over to your local law enforcement agency any firearm you have, all concealed carry permits you hold, and your Illinois firearm owner identification card. For those of you who don't live in Illinois, you don't even want to know what that is. All of this can be mandated to you without your knowledge it's happening. Your first inclination something is wrong occurs when the cops show up at your door and they're not selling tickets to the policeman's ball. So here's a bit of advice. If you're the type of person that begins a sentence with, "You may not want to hear this, but," I'd suggest buying a big plastic bin, loading all of your guns in it, and burying them somewhere that they'll never be found. Oh, yeah. And cut down your drinking at Thanksgiving dinner. And that, Gretchen's my rant for the week.
Very apropos.
Very apropos.
That bill is actually going to rear its ugly head in my action items as well.
You know, I can't imagine it ever getting life. I really can't.
I don't think it will, but,
it's Illinois.
We don't want to take our chances.
No, that's true. But the Southern Democrats, that's not likely to happen. I don't know. Anyway, give us a call, 815-205-1584. Our guest this evening is Thomas Gilligan. He is a patrol officer with the Village of Bensenville Police Department. A 9-year veteran, Gilligan earned the Chief's Valor Award. And he's also captain of the Illinois Army National Guard. In his 12 years with the Guard, he's had 2 deployments and earned a Bronze Star. And the subject we're going to be talking about tonight is traffic stops. Are you primed and ready to go, Thomas, to talk about traffic stops?
I am all set on my end.
Good. All right.
Fantastic.
Well, we're glad to have you on board. We thank you. I guess a question that's come up. Did you want to ask it about that?
So when we teach concealed carry, I do the law part, and a very common question that our students ask is they want to know if they get pulled over in a traffic stop, what information do you have about them? Do you know that they have concealed carry?
Well, it basically depends on the level of information the state's required by the individual, which is attached to the license plate. So it kind of varies. Obviously, as you know, with government, it's not the most accurate system, but the plate that's attached to someone's car may or may not have their driver's license information attached to that plate. So say John Smith owns the 2010 Buick, and when we run it, John Smith's driver's license is then attached. If his driver's license is attached, then all of his information will come up, whether he has a concealed carry for Illinois. It'll tell us if he does or does not. If there's not a driver's license attached to that plate, then we don't know.
Okay. Now, back when I was doing it, they would just come up and they would say the vehicle is registered to John Smith. And if we wanted to, we could have the people on the other end of the radio run the driver's license by the name. Do you still have that option to do that?
Yes. Yeah. So if we run an individual in order to find out more information about, let's say, I don't know, whatever we want to know, we can select in that search whether we want to know if they have a FOID card or not. And then also now automatically it'll come up if they have a valid concealed carry, if it's expired, or if they are never issued one.
Okay, excellent.
You've been doing so. I think there are some misconceptions about writing tickets per se, and one of those is, and I've used to hear this actually very often. You have a quota. Do you have a quota? And I used to joke.
Whenever we do anything, it generates a number, so we have accountability of whatever we were doing. So say we did a premise check for an apartment complex to make sure everything's okay. So we would document doing those things. But if we, for some reason, don't find anyone speeding for 30 days straight, we are perfectly okay, and our departments don't frown upon that.
Sure. I don't know if everybody knows this in the listening audience, so we do want to mention that there were departments in the past, at least in Illinois, to my knowledge, there were some that did have quotas. I knew a woman who worked for Bridgeview, and she said they made no secret of the fact that they had quotas. But a couple of years ago, Illinois actually, the General Assembly passed a law that that police departments were not allowed to have quotas anymore. So they, like you're saying, they would have to have some other way to measure the performance of the officers, the fact that they're actually out there working the job and not just eating donuts.
I know when I was with Will County, I was part-time, they call it auxiliary, so we didn't write tickets ourselves, but we paired up, we'd ride with the full-time guys and would be involved in there. Will County never has had, well, I say never, I was 17 years, they've never had quotas, but they did expect to see deputies have a round day, so to speak. You're supposed to be doing a little bit of everything. So, and I think you're right. If you didn't write a ticket for several days, okay, well, maybe that's it. There just wasn't anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And unfortunately, with every government, which I'm sure you guys are well versed on, decides how they will collect money from people, their citizens or people from outside their towns or counties. And unfortunately, in the past, and I would assume that there are some out there still that see police officers as a variation of a tax collector, which obviously is wrong in itself. But it did happen in the past. Illinois, as you said, Gretchen, did pass that legislation that legally limits what a department can, say a police officer or sworn officer can do or cannot do for accountability. And so since then, departments have gotten away from that. Unions, as far as I know, have really grabbed on that. And
they did, Thomas.
To let that be a.
We're gonna take a break.
Rating.
We're gonna come back in a couple of minutes. We're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we'll be more with Thomas Gilligan, and we're talking about traffic stops.
For over 100 years, the Illinois State Rifle Association has supported the rights and freedoms of Illinois citizens to keep and bear arms. For over 100 years, the ISRA has supported the use of firearms as a sport for personal protection and as a fundamental aspect of national defense. For over 100 years, the Illinois State Rifle Association has been supporting you. Don't you think it's time you supported them? ISRA.org or 815-635-3198. The Illinois State Rifle Association, supporting you.
Safer USA, Chicago's most trusted name in firearm training, is offering beginners classes, tactical pistol and rifle, long-range rifle to 600 yards, and the most comprehensive Illinois concealed carry program available. The On Target Radio co-hosts David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz will prepare you to carry a firearm for personal protection, including firearm, holster, and ammunition selection. A comprehensive law review designed to keep you out of trouble and even how to deal with home invasions. Firearm, ammunition, holster, class notebook, and lunch are provided. Safer USA and the Aurora Sportsman's Club invites you to participate in this one-of-a-kind Illinois concealed carry program that also qualifies you for Florida, Utah, and Arizona non-resident permits. Find out what over 6,000 students already know at saferusa.com.
Or call 815-741-3474. That's 815-741-3474. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
Do you dread writing? Is it challenging to find just the right words to get your point across? Do you put off developing marketing materials because you just don't know where to start? You get one chance to make a first impression, and my editor, Creative Business Services, can help make it a strong, positive one. Hi, this is Gretchen Fritz, co-host of On Target Radio, and I'd like to tell you about My Editor, a business I started to help you overcome those concerns. What you're experiencing is very common. My Editor has helped business owners, candidates for political office, and even authors and public speakers. At My Editor Creative Business Services, we can simply edit your existing work or help you develop an entire writing plan of action from initial project design through final copy. We are easy to work with and will help you get your point across in the most effective manner. If words escape you, send me an email at myeditor@mail.com. Use My Editor Creative Business Services and go to print with confidence. That's myeditor@mail.com or find us on Facebook.
You're listening to On Target Radio with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
This segment is brought to you by the Will County Grassroots Division of the Illinois State Rifle Association. Join like-minded friends supporting the right to keep and bear arms in Illinois at 7 p.m. on the third Wednesday of the month at the Silver Dollar Restaurant in Elwood, Illinois.
We're back with Thomas Gilligan, who's with the Bensenville Police Department. Give us a call, 815-205-1584. It's your opportunity to ask two ex-cops and a present cop anything you want to know about traffic stops or really kind of about anything. Thomas, here's a question. When you pull a car over, what are you looking for? As you look at that car and as you approach that car, what are you looking for?
Obviously, the first thing we're looking for is the number of people in the vehicle. Obviously, if you have a car that's packed full of the young to middle-aged adults, you tend to take a second to evaluate that situation. Not necessarily is anything wrong in there, but you're outnumbered, and being outnumbered is always a bad thing. But then once you start approaching the vehicle, you just want to look at the driver and see how they're acting. Kind of walk slow, see if they're looking around for you, or if they're nervous, or if they're, they have that look of, oh my God, I just got pulled over by a cop, what do I do? And then you just kind of approach the driver and you start talking to him and, let the situation develop from there.
It is scary, particularly at night. At night is freaky because you can't see as well to begin with. But, yeah, I mean, here in Crest Hill, now it's been, gosh, that happened probably 15, 20 years ago, but there was a sergeant in Crest Hill approached a car, and it matched the description of somebody had just done an armed robbery, but there were supposed to be two guys, and there was only one, the driver. And he approached and got the driver and, was kind of feeling him out to see what he thought. And he asked, do you mind if I look in your trunk? And the guy goes, fine. And when he went over to open the trunk, the guy popped out, shot him in the head. So that's one thing we were always taught when you approach a car. One thing you do is put your thumb down on the trunk to see if it's ajar or not.
Yeah, and that's one thing that kind of was one of those things you saw growing up a lot. So we always asked about in the academy. But as technology's kind of changed for vehicles, they all have that secondary lock. So you have the secure mode, and then once they're open partway, they have that. So our paranoia of trunks has dropped a little bit because we have, more visual assurance that there's nothing in it. But whenever a trunk is open, there's that, tenth of a second where you're really not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. What advice would you give people if you get pulled over? What would you tell people to be doing as you're looking at the car, you're getting out and approaching them? What advice would you give them? What should they be doing at that moment?
To make it better.
Yeah, and so obviously a positive interaction with the police usually will start with the individual, the citizen, and just how they react to the initial stop. It's always best for a person controlling the vehicle, so the driver, just to have their hands where the officer can see them. The steering wheel is the easiest and most well-known place that an officer will look if you want to put them there. But if you don't feel comfortable or you feel like that makes you look guilty or anything like that, just put them on the top of your thighs, that way they're clearly visible, because that's the first thing we're looking for, is where are those hands at. Because as you guys know, that if you know where the hands are, you can usually control a situation.
Yeah, I remember when I was in training like 20-some years ago, the guy who was doing the training at the time asked the question. He goes, when you look at somebody, what do you look at? And one of the guys goes, their eyes. I'm thinking, why is this guy here? What are you going to do? Kill me with a dirty look?
Laser beam eyes.
Laser beam
right.
eyes, yeah. We when people ask me that, I tell them, and I've done this, not that I get pulled over a lot, but there's been one or two occasions. And particularly at night, I put down all four windows. I open the windows up, turn the dome light on, put my hands up on the steering wheel. I make absolutely certain that, there's nothing spooky going on. I think a lot of people don't know this, Thomas. When you're sitting in a patrol car, you can actually see what they're doing through their back window, right?
Right, yeah. So most times once we initiate a stop, we have several different lighting sources we'll put into the vehicle to make sure we can see as much as we can before we ever exit the squad car. Because if we see something we don't like, we'll just sit in the squad car and wait for somebody else to show up, because, legally we're not in a big hurry to get up there and talk to you.
Sure.
But the dome lights and the flashers on, and those are all good things.
What always tickled me was gangbangers are, and I doubt any of them are listening to the show, so I'm not going to get stalked by one of them, but gangbangers aren't exactly the brightest bulb in the lamp factory. And you'd look at them, you'd light up their rear window, and you could see them bending over, doing something between their legs on the floor of the car, like they didn't think we could tell they were doing that. And
their head disappears, and you're like, I wonder what's going on.
Exactly right. Yeah. And what always tickled me is, like, they don't know, I guess. They probably don't know better. But you'd go, you have anything you wouldn't want me to know about? No. I go, do you mind if I search your car? And, if you ask permission to search a car, it's because you can't do it on your own. And then you'd find like this 9mm on the floor, and you go, oh, is this your gun? No. Whose gun is it? My cousin's. I loaned it.
It's always the
car.
cousin.
Yeah. What's your cousin's name? I don't know.
Luigi.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have weird people like that go through Bensonville?
Yeah, so at Bentonville, we're right on the edge of freedom there. We nestle into the corner of Cook County, so we're the very last town in DuPage. So we have quite a frequent people, the cheaper taxes, the cigarettes and whatnot. So we get all sorts in Bentonville, definitely.
It certainly can make it interesting. They're really not very bright.
So when you pull somebody over, this is one thing that some people were never taught, and they're not aware of it. When you pull someone over, you want them to stay in the vehicle, correct? And why is that?
Yes. So it's one of the big things that anyone who's new to our country has trouble with. In almost every other country, it's part of their driver's training to get out of the vehicle and approach the officer. But here in the United States, we do things differently. And it's for our safety and anyone else's. One is that the driver who is not trained to be in traffic will just walk out into traffic and get hit. Unfortunately, that's a reality. People just don't think that cars will hit them because they think, oh, I'm big, I'm important, no one's going to run into me. But that's one of the big reasons. And two, for us officers, we just don't know why you're getting out of the car, and we're paranoid that you may be coming towards us in a negative fashion, and we don't usually respond well to negative actions.
There's been lots of videos of guys who exit their car, and the cop, for whatever reason, and I think the unfortunate thing is police are getting gun shy, and I don't mean that in the literal sense, they're getting gun shy about what they do with somebody because they're constantly being scrutinized and judged after the fact. But there's some terrible videos that you can see on the internet where a guy gets out of his car and the cop is saying on a loudspeaker, "Sir, get back in your car. Get back in your car."
Yeah, he'll tell them like 6 or 10 times to get back in the vehicle.
Pull out a gun,
and they end up getting shot.
Yeah. It's a very hinky thing when somebody gets out of his car and starts approaching you.
Right, and it's obviously very dangerous for both sides because neither side knows how the other person is going to react, and there's I don't know why they're doing it, and when that happens, we have to assume the worst. And unfortunately, for us as law enforcement officers, when we assume the worst, but it turns out to be less than the worst, then we do take action and use lethal force. Then the average person who watches that video questions us and they go, "Well, why would you shoot him? He never had a gun." And they don't understand that situation to begin with is that we're required to escalate that quickly. And so it's best for someone just to sit there, wait with their hands, where we can see them, and the dome light on, the flashers on, the windows down, and we can start the conversation that way.
There's a video of a woman who committed suicide at an indoor range. It hit about a week ago, I think. And one of the things that really stands out about it is she's with an instructor who's standing directly behind her, and she takes one normal shot and then just turns the gun on herself, puts it up her chest, and pulls the trigger, and it goes through her and hits the instructor. But the thing that's very interesting about it, and it really applies to law enforcement, is everything is just fine. Everything is going really well. You're comfortable. This is all good. And in just a turn of, it's just a heartbeat, the whole situation reverses.
Yep, and that's one of the big challenges with human beings. Be real. They get to choose when and where they're going to do whatever they're going to do. And unfortunately, people's actions when they take their own lives or want someone else to do it for them, it always involves somebody else. and in that particular situation, it affected another individual because of a person's act. Some might look at it selfish or desperate, but their choice negatively impacted someone else's life.
Yeah, there is that concept of suicide by cop, where some poor cop just is in the wrong place at the wrong time, and some guy he doesn't have the guts to do it to himself, so he cages a cop in a corner somehow and makes the cop do it for him.
Or takes a hostage or does something to make sure that he gets himself shot.
Yeah. It's just gotten funny out there lately. I mean, there were a bunch of us sitting at the ISRA meeting at the dinner part before, and we'd all been law enforcement, full or part-time, whatever, and we all sort of agreed. None of us thought that we really would want to keep doing it. I mean, literally, when you go somewhere, you go in to get a cup of coffee, you go in to use a restroom, some guy's liable to come out of the shadow and just take a shot at you today.
Yep, and that's one of the challenges of the job is you just have that level of paranoia all the time. Unfortunately, my wife has to deal with it. Whenever I go to a restaurant or anything like that, only one way we can sit, and I don't like sitting in booths because you're cornered in and always got to face a door or the wait staff entrance or anything like that. So it's a 24/7 response we have now.
It is. I mean, Gretchen and I go out to dinner, sometimes before we do a show or whatever, and we always get the table toward the back, and, one of us is always facing the door. It just, we don't even talk about it. It's just second nature. We just do it because you literally don't ever know what's going to happen.
Yep, and it's a good thing because it allows us that extra half a second to react to anything happening. So
exactly,
it makes people feel uncomfortable initially.
Yeah.
So were you taught to profile vehicles to pull over, and if so, what were you taught to look for? Oh, okay. Well, we're almost out of time, so when we come back, we'll talk about that. And I also want to talk about concealed carry issues, things that have changed since we got concealed carry. So we'll be back with all that and more on Target Radio.
Hi, I'm David Lombardo, co-host of On Target Radio, and I'd like to offer you a partnership opportunity. For over 4 years, On Target Radio covered the red meat issues that affect your life, from gun control to freedom of speech, on AM 560 The Answer. But a 1-minute commercial was $200, making it tough to find enough sponsors. So last November, we left AM 560 and began podcasting. There's a learning curve to podcasting, and we've worked through the kinks and would make you an offer. You can have a 60-second audio or video commercial for as little as $25 a week. We can also offer fellow conservatives their own radio or video podcast for as little as $100 a week, with equipment and technical personnel included. You provide the content and host, plus get 6 free minutes of commercial time you can sell yourself. If you'd like to be an On Target Radio sponsor or explore the possibility of having your own show, call me at 815-741-3474, and let's explore the possibilities together.
For over 100 years, the Illinois State Rifle Association has supported the rights and freedoms of Illinois citizens to keep and bear arms. For over 100 years, the ISRA has supported the use of firearms as a sport for personal protection and as a fundamental aspect of national defense. For over 100 years, the Illinois State Rifle Association has been supporting you. Don't you think it's time you supported them? ISRA.org or 815-635-3198. The Illinois State Rifle Association, supporting you.
So he's bringing.
You're listening to On Target Radio with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
And we're back with more On Target Radio. Give us a call, 815-205-1584. The lines are open.
Phone lines.
The phone lines.
Give us a call.
The phone lines are open. But why? Some nights people call and some nights they don't call. I don't know. Our guest this evening is Thomas Gilligan. He's a patrol officer with Bensenville Police Department. We've been talking about doing traffic stops. When you find out that because when you run the license, you're going to find out they have a concealed carry permit. So when you find out they have a concealed carry permit, what step do you do anything different? What do you do?
I generally don't. I have a general theory in life that if you want to go into a gunfight, so be it, and we'll sort it out, and whoever wins wins. Most people who have concealed carry permits are good citizens who have no particular animosity towards the government or their representatives, so they'll just let you know they have it, and and we'll move forward from there.
We've been collectively pulled over 3 times, which is there's a certain
since we had concealed carry.
Yeah, since we had concealed carry. Yeah. Well, what makes you think I was before?
I know you have.
So anyway, the inequity of this is...
Okay, A, you're old, and B, I know you have.
The inequity of this is that I got pulled over twice and pulled over once, which I just... that's not right. But in all 3 cases, well, you weren't with me, but the 2, but in every case, one was the woman who's now the chief of police in
Hinckley.
In Hinckley. One was a state cop on 55 when I was going home exhausted, and the 2 of us.
And we got pulled over by actually 2 state troopers. One was in field training, and then the other one was his field training officer. And so that was who I got pulled over by.
And all 3 of those were very professional.
They were completely fine with us.
Yeah, it's like they just asked. They just said, "Are you carrying tonight?" And I said, "Yeah." "Where is it?" I told them, where it was, and they go, "Okay." That was it.
Yeah, when I got pulled over, they said, "Well, you told them we just got done teaching concealed carry," and then the field training officer, the light goes on, and he goes, "Do you have vehicles or weapons in the vehicle?" And we said yes, and they didn't even ask where they were. They just said, "Give us the license."
Yeah.
So they didn't care at all.
So I think there was a lot of fear, and it may be different in Cook County because I did have somebody tell me in Cook County one of the cops gave him a hard time. Mm-hmm. Didn't really do anything per se, but just gave him a hard time because of.
Well, I want to circle back to the profiling question that we didn't get to at the end of segment 2. So, were you taught to profile vehicles, Thomas?
I was not overtly taught how to do it. No.
Well, that's a way to say it. All right, yeah, that's hedging your bets.
Yeah.
So, what were we looking for?
So obviously, any part of initial training for an officer is to be able to identify things that are not normal. So obviously, in the town where I work, after you're there for a couple of weeks or months, you learn what normal looks like. And then if you go out to Wheeling or say Crestwood or anything like that, normal is a little different. So it's always different what each town is. In our town, there's a couple of things you look for. One is the vehicle was doing something prior to you being in its proximity, and then once it sees you, it changes what it's doing.
Yeah.
So obviously, most people freak out as soon as they see the cops. It's just a natural thing that we expect. But people who are hiding something, or they think they're hiding something because they believe that we can read their minds, will go to an extreme to try to seem normal and fit in. And so, that's going 5 under the speed limit, or, turn over to the right lane and slow down, hoping we're going to pass, things like that are the most overt things. And then obviously for those who, people we know are bad, we can tell they're bad just by the way they look, that they have that look that, people who are not doing legal things are terrified to look you in the eye. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but I think if I just don't look at the cop, maybe he won't notice me. He's like a T-Rex. Just don't look, don't move, he won't notice. And so
it's like a big dog. You don't want to challenge him. Yeah.
Yep. And so just look straight ahead. Don't move your head. If you don't move your head, then they won't notice you, and they'll leave you alone. Normal people are curious. A normal citizen will have a cop next to them, and they're curious. They want to, what does this cop look like? Because everyone has, what they think a cop looks like. And so they'll look over, and they'll smile, or, they're afraid to smile, but they'll still look because they want to, take a peek. But that, looking straight ahead, that terrified to look away is always a dead giveaway for us.
Yeah. Which is funny because just for anybody who doesn't know Thomas, he doesn't look like a cop. I know a lot of cops who like exude a cop vibe.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
they just throw it off, and Thomas is not one of them.
I'll tell you what tickles me, and actually ticks me off more than anything, is if you're driving like down the interstate and you roll up on a car, they all slow down.
Oh, I hate
And
that.
you can't, and because they assume that you're, that you're pacing them. And I just
Right.
want to go somewhere, just get out of my way.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like even cops want to go faster than the speed limit.
Exactly. I don't think we can say that. Can we say that? I don't think we can say
We're
that.
not on the job anymore, so yeah, we can say that.
But it's true. They see
It's
a cop
generally
car,
true,
and they
yeah.
slow down, and they are in both lanes. You can't
Yeah.
get by them.
We call it a rolling block. Well, the profiling question, what I was actually trying to get at is something that Lombardo and I have talked about before. We were both taught to profile vehicles. My field training officer called them shit boxes. He said, look for shit boxes, which is basically cars that, have deferred maintenance, shall we say.
Yeah. We call them beaters.
Right.
Yeah.
So your guys were a little bit more polite than ours, but the paint color of the door doesn't match the rest of the body, or
Sometimes there's 4 colors.
well, right, exactly. Various panels of the car are different colors than others, but these are the types of vehicles you'll often find equipment violations, but you'll often find other types of violations. One of my favorite stories was driving down 55 on my way home from work one time, and I was in field training, so I couldn't do anything, but they didn't know that because I was in a marked car, so they didn't know that I wasn't a full-fledged cop yet. And I saw a shitbox, and so I looked at the back license plate, and then I passed them on the left, and as I was going by, I looked at their front license plate, which was from a different state. And they saw me looking at their front license plate, and they freaked out, and they just jumped off on the next exit, even though I'm sure that's not where they wanted to go. And I just laughed and laughed because there was nothing I could do about it, but they didn't know that, so I gave them a heart attack. That was fun.
Yeah.
They're really
Yeah,
not.
and that's a form of passive enforcement we do. So just to give people a scare and then let them go on their day.
I did that too because I wasn't allowed to do anything there. I was stuck in 7 a.m. I was working midnight, and I was stuck in 7 a.m. bumper to bumper traffic on some interstate, and somebody pulled off and they were going to go up on the shoulder, and I just turned on my lights. I take that back. I pulled out just enough onto the shoulder. I just angled my car out enough so that they could see that there was a car right there, and they're like, getting back into traffic. Yeah, they were scared.
There are moments that are humorous when you look back on it. It's but I always joked and said that being a cop is years of utter boredom interspersed with moments of stark terror.
Sheer terror.
You have no idea what's going to happen. It's pretty bizarre sometimes.
So another question that I wanted to ask is, so back in 2015, there's only been one amendment to the concealed carry law in Illinois, which was Public Act 9929. And one of the things that was in 9929 was that police officers, when they interact with somebody who has concealed carry, can take their guns for the duration of the interaction. And so, the students in our classes, they always want to know, are they doing this? So the question is, do you do it, or do you know of other police officers who do it?
We do not. Our department, we have a general policy to not touch other private property of a private citizen. There are just all kinds of paperwork and legal ramifications that can come about from us taking possession of someone else's property. So for the most part, we have never come across, so far in our town, a situation where we have disarmed somebody and then given it back at the end of the situation. I mean, just in conversations out in the street and domestic situations where, families end up in a big fight or whatever, we generally trust people. If they have a concealed carry, that means, for the most part, they're not awful human beings looking for a fight with the police at every moment. So we avoid taking control of someone's private property.
Good to know.
Yeah, and that's probably the safest thing to do. A lot of times people don't quite understand what a law enforcement officer can and can't do. For instance, they think if you don't have probable cause, they love that television term of probable cause. You can't search their car, but you can for officer safety. If you can define reasonably why somebody makes you hinky, you can search them for weapons. Now, anything you find during that search that's not a weapon is inadmissible in court. You can't. So we pulled this guy right over here on 59 once. Pulled this kid over. He was in one of those cars that go, you know what I mean? As soon as you see one of those, you want to talk to him, right? You know, nice music. Get out of the car. But we found a dime bag in his glove compartment, and so I'm holding this dime bag, and he's hooked up. He's in the back seat of the patrol car, and we couldn't hold him for that because so. The guy I'm riding with goes over and lets him out and takes the cuffs off, and he says, "You're free to go." And the kid knew he was going to go to jail because we found drugs. Mm-hmm. And he gets in the car and he's looking at us with this quizzical look on his face, like,
"Why are you letting me go?
Why are you letting me go?" Yeah. And he looks at me and he goes, "You didn't have probable cause." They just love that term. And I go, "That's correct." He says, So you can't arrest me for that?" And I go, "No." And the guy I'm riding with looks over and he says, "You're done. Go away." And he holds out his hand. He wants his drugs. And I high-five him. I slap his hand. I go, "Go, bro. You're good." And he goes, "Give me the drugs." And Ray goes, "What do you mean?" And he says, you have them illegally." And I go, "This is correct. We are actually stealing your drugs." And his eyes just got as big as pizzas. And he says, "You can't do that." And I go, "I'll tell you what." I said, "We'll call the desk sergeant and bring a sergeant up the report that we stole your drugs." And he gave us the one-finger salute and disappeared. Takes all kinds.
That happens to us quite often. Yep, yeah, all the time. It's hilarious.
Anyway, we got to take another break. See how fast time goes by when three cops start talking. When we come back, we're going to do Gretchen's actions items, and we'll talk a little more with Thomas Gilligan about about something. We'll be back with more On Target Radio after these messages.
Safer USA, Chicago's most trusted name in firearm training, is offering beginners classes, tactical pistol and rifle, long-range rifle to 600 yards, and the most comprehensive concealed carry program available. The On Target Radio co-hosts David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz will prepare you to carry a firearm for personal protection, including firearm, holster, and ammunition selection. A comprehensive law review designed to keep you out of trouble and even how to deal with home invasions. Firearm, ammunition, holster, class notebook, and lunch are provided. Safer USA and the Aurora Sportsman's Club invites you to participate in this one-of-a-kind Illinois concealed carry program that also qualifies you for Florida, Utah, and Arizona non-resident permits. Find out what over 6,000 students already know at saferusa.com.
Or call 815-741-3474. That's 815-741-3474. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
In need of a ride to O'Hare or Midway Airport? Well, look no further. The Yellow Checker Cab Company is the cab company for you. With the Yellow Checker Cab Company, you will always be greeted by a friendly face and arrive safely and on time for your flight. your trip off right by taking advantage of one of their limos, shuttle vans, cabs, or courtesy cars. And airport trips are not all they specialize in. This 24-hour cab service will pick you up anytime, any day, for any occasion. From bachelorette parties to school dances to just a night out with friends. Yellow Checker Cab Company has the best rates in town. So sit back, relax, and leave the driving to the professionals. Once you experience their fast and affordable cab service, you'll be a customer for life. When it comes to cab companies, be sure to choose Yellow Checker Cab because you have the right to expect certain things from your cab company. For further information or to book your trip today, call 815-744-2900. That's 815-744-2900.
You're listening to On Target Radio with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life. Stand by. Here's Gretchen with your action items for the week.
From the ISRA, HB 2354, sponsored by Representative Kathleen Willis, would allow any family member of yours to swear out a lethal violence order of protection against you. Once the order is sworn out on you, your FOID will be revoked as well as your concealed carry permit, and then your local police will be forced to confiscate your guns and ammunition. HB 2354 is a prime example of a dangerous new tactic being deployed by the gun grabbers. They have failed miserably so far in outright gun bans, so now they're seeking to greatly expand the envelope of prohibited persons while shrinking the envelope of what constitutes a lawful gun owner. Latching on to emotional social issues as cover, the gun grabbers will use unfounded suspicion as a tool to dismantle our Constitution. HB 2354 is scheduled for a hearing before the House Judiciary Criminal Committee on Tuesday, March 14th. Please contact your state representative, especially if they are in the House Judiciary Criminal Committee, and politely tell them that you are a law-abiding gun owner and that you expect them to vote against HB 2354 should the bill come to a vote. I put this information on Facebook this afternoon. Don't forget, Illinois Gun Owners Lobby Day is Wednesday, April 5th in Springfield. The following Safer USA classes are at our facility in Waterman. Saturday and Sunday, April 8th and 9th, Illinois Concealed Carry 1. This 16-hour class will be taught by David and Gretchen and meets the training requirements for Illinois Concealed Carry as well as Florida, Arizona, and Utah. Thursday and Friday, April 13th and 14th, NRA Shotgun Instructor taught by David. Saturday and Sunday, April 22nd and 23rd, NRA Pistol Instructor taught by David. Saturday, April 29th, Tactical Pistol 1 and 2 taught by David. To sign up for classes, go to saferusa.com and click on register.
Sounds to me like you should have your own rant. That first piece that you did.
Oh, I didn't write this. Richard Pearson or somebody wrote that.
Richard Pearson should have his own rant.
Well, he should, but...
Yeah. So, anyway, we're back with more on Target Radio, and this is your last chance. Give us a call, 815-205-1584. We know you're listening because we can see the numbers. You can't hide, okay?
That's right.
You're there. We know you're there.
You can watch, but you can't hide.
Exactly. That's right, true. But our guest this evening is Thomas.
Bunch of voyeurs.
Thomas. I have to do this straight. This is our guest.
Sorry.
Our guest tonight is Thomas Gilligan, who is a patrol officer with Bensenville PD. We've been talking about concealed carry and sort of related issues. Here's a question that I have. When you get out of the car, do you know what you're going to do in terms of a ticket? Is basically your mind already made up?
It depends on the violation. And so, if someone was doing, 30, 40, over the speed limit, generally, for sure they're going to get a ticket. It may not be for the full amount that was over, depending on the attitude. But in general, we have a pretty good idea. If it's a minor violation, it's, expired license plate or things like that, for the most part, we're not going to give a ticket because it's, a expense that not everyone can afford. But, if we walk up and, you're extremely disrespectful and rude, then generally our minds change quickly. So.
And, Thomas, that's what I've always told people. Basically, you get out of the car, you pretty much know what you're going to do, and what you can do is make it worse.
Right. You're right.
That's kind of what it boils down to. How much leeway does a cop have when he pulls someone over? If I'm doing 35 in a 20, all right, how much leeway do you actually have? Because being a cop is a little like being a Blue Knight. I mean, you're kind of, that's your office, and you're sort of on your own.
Yeah, and for the Illinois statute, when it comes to speeding violations, anything 20 and under, the fine is exactly the same. And so it really just comes down to what the officer wants to put on the ticket. And when it goes, if you have to go in front of a judge, what that judge will see. So if we think you're a relatively good person and you're like, well, you probably never gotten a ticket before in your life, no big deal, we'll drop it down. Just that way the judge will probably get rid of it. You'll, blow a day at work, and then that'll be the end of it. Or, on the other hand, we can go the other way to make sure that the judge sees exactly what you're doing because of, you're not the nicest person in the whole world.
What can a person do? Is there anything that a person can do to make the situation better?
From personally, whenever I talk to anybody for a common traffic violation, I'll ask them if they have had a moving violation or any kind of traffic ticket in the last 12 months. And most people, are pretty truthful about it. And other people think that there's no way you're going to know. But reality is that, as soon as we run your plate, it pops up that, if you had a ticket in the last 12 months. So we kind of get a gauge on your truthfulness as a person right out the gate. So you get, I think I've had a ticket, and, so being honest, we know you were speeding. We know you had a problem that was not legal. That's why we pulled you over. So you can argue with us all you want to that, you don't think you're guilty of whatever the offense may be. But in general, we won't pull you over unless we are absolutely sure you were the vehicle that made whatever violation. So honesty is best.
I had a case once where we were shooting radar on Marley Road. Well, you probably don't know where that is. But anyway, we were shooting radar on Marley Road, and so I went up to it was a van, and it was a typical soccer mom. I mean, this cute lady was sitting in there, and she had her kids in the car, and she was she was adorable, and she was doing probably 15 over, I guess. And so I asked for her license and her insurance card, and when she handed it to me, I felt something underneath it, and I thought, she's trying to bribe me? I go, are you kidding? I don't get paid. You could bribe me? And I looked at it, and Monopoly get out of jail free card. And I tried not to laugh. I showed it to the guy I was riding with, and we just broke up. And we ended up letting her go. We gave her a warning. But we kept the card. We got a call, Thomas. We actually have a call here. So let's go ahead and field the call. It's from John. John, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, guys. It's great to be on the show. I enjoy watching and listening to you every week. And, Officer, I am a resident of Bentonville, so I wanted to thank you for all you do for our community here. And I really loved what you had to say about being the first town, Freedom Town, because we are right on the Crook-DuPage County border. And I enjoy living here in Bentonville, and I just wanted to tell you thanks a lot for all you and your fellow law enforcement officers do.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. I appreciate your support, sir.
That's great.
Okay,
thank you very much.
you.
Thanks for calling. Appreciate it. We have another call too.
Oh, that was lovely.
All of a sudden, they're coming up. This one doesn't have a name, but this is a caller who asks about your military service. Can you hear me?
We dropped the wrong call there.
Perfect.
I got to call back in. Hang on.
That was really good. See, here's the thing, Thomas. I have no idea what I'm doing. At least we didn't drop him.
Some of these software programs are new to us.
Yeah, this was a little challenging for me.
Just say that.
It requires that you can read, and that's always kind of out on the cutting edge there. I'm not sure, but it is what it is. Most of your day is, or are you in a traffic department? Can't hear you. Did I drop him? Oh, I I dropped our guest. Well, so do you know how to sing? Yes, you sing, Gretchen.
I do.
Give him a second to straighten it out.
Oh, you're back. Okay.
Okay.
You do.
Yeah.
And did we get the other guy back?
He'll have to
I
call
think
back.
the other
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
dropped off.
Oh.
Right now, we don't have any callers right now.
Okay. All right. No, it's terminated. I'm sorry. I apologize. Whoever you were calling about military service, it was my thumb. Blame my thumb. Question he wanted to know, and it's an interesting one. He asked if your military service had any effect on your policing.
It does, definitely. So as a member of the National Guard, I am, doing training constantly. So I have the luxury of receiving more annual training than the average police officer. In the National Guard, I'm a military police member, so I don't stray too far from the house there. For the most part, the techniques and what we do are generally the same. So I get to put rounds down range on a very regular basis, which is, makes my life much better.
It's funny you say that because I say this tongue-in-cheek, but maybe not that much tongue-in-cheek. When we teach class, I always go, listen, if you're ever involved in a bank robbery, the safest place to be is directly in front of the cop when he arrives. Most cops can't hit the broadside of a barn. They really don't get good. They don't get good firearm training. Most of them do. Patrol cops, SWAT team guys do, but patrol guys don't.
And it's definitely a budget issue.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about money. But you don't just do traffic stuff. I mean, you work normal patrol, right?
Yes. So my primary responsibility is to respond to 911 calls. So pretty much anything that comes into the dispatch center, myself and other officers will get sent to that address to deal with whatever situation arrives, which always makes for a fun day because you never know what you're going to get.
We got about a minute and a half left. So here's the magic question. In all of police work, what is the worst type of call to go on?
It's definitely a domestic situation.
That's it? You just
I know.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
I was going to say, let's all say it together.
Yeah. The one time I had to use lethal force was a domestic situation. A young man decided he was going to kill his girlfriend, and then whoever else showed up. And unfortunately that day, him and I exchanged pleasantries, and luckily he was on the receiving end and I wasn't. And it was, just a call that could have been, he could have said, hey, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be here. And he could have went home that day. But unfortunately, domestic situations make people make bad decisions. I don't know why. It's just a history thing.
It is. It's and inevitably by the time we get there, it's over. And now it's a codependency thing. I mean, the person is being abused, typically woman, but not always. Sometimes it's the male. It's over, and you get there. In Illinois, the complainant is the police officer because the person who is being abused never shows up in court. And now you're going to take typically the man away, and now they're after you.
Yep.
Well, that was it.
It's every time.
Yeah. So, but it's funny. When I asked the question, Gretchen and I just looked at each other and both go, domestic. Yeah, there's no question about it. It's domestic. You never go on a domestic call alone. That's a bad move. Well, it's been interesting. It's the conversation.
I hope that some of our viewers got their questions answered.
Apparently they did. Hearing no further questions. We'll have to have you back again sometime. It's very been very interesting, Thomas, so we appreciate you calling in.
Yep, absolutely. I'd love to anytime.
All right, be careful out there. Watch your back because it's gotten weird.
Yes.
Will do, and I appreciate what you're doing for lawful gun owners.
Thanks. All right, that's great. And we would like to thank Thomas Gilligan for taking the time to be our guest this evening. And you for listening tonight. We'd appreciate it if you tell your friends about On Target Radio.
We'd also like to thank our engineer and announcer, Eric Allen, and our sponsors, Yellow Checker of Joliet, My Editor Creative Business Services, the Will County Grassroots Division of the ISRA, the Illinois State Rifle Association, the Aurora Sportsman's Club, and Safer USA.
And finally, we hope you'll listen next week when we'll be covering more red meat issues that affect your life.